I set out to become the ultimate Jiu-Jitsu black belt. On our way to Seattle, Washington, I challenged 6 gyms spanning across America. In the last video, we stumbled upon a random gym called Traphouse Jiu-Jitsu in Missoula, Montana. Here, we took on a submission-hungry blue belt named Corey, who broke both of my ankles. Our next challenge before we face the gym leader of Traphouse is a slick purple belt named Callan. Corey and I begin the 9-minute round intimately, both playing with each other's feet until I feel I have distracted him enough and I blast onto a knee cut. I'll end up skimming just past his guard about as well as I skimmed through math class after COVID. I wind up in deep shit as Callan locks onto X guard. I stay calm knowing my dump truck of an ass is going to be a lot harder to pick up than he's probably anticipating. I drop my chest down, but Callan pushes me off and nearly catches me with a dummy sweep. I may have almost failed math, but I did my jiu-jitsu homework and learned how to keep my balance enough to avoid his attack. He enters into a different entanglement as he roly-polies under my legs. With no clear vision on how to escape, I try to barricade myself behind my thighs until we eventually come out into a neutral state. It's crazy how much you can grow from only a month or so of training. Watching myself chromosomlessly flop onto Callan's guard, legs wide open like all the Game of Thrones characters, is fairly heartbreaking. But my genuine goal is to somehow find a foot on the inside position and then start raining knee cuts, just like this situation. I use the back step to get Callan to frame on my hip and open up his elbow, and then I quickly switch to a knee cut. He's almost able to stuff me back into the guard, but with a heavy shoulder and flailing like a level 10 Magikarp, I'm able to sneak past his other leg. I then insert my left leg into a butterfly hook on top, and I'm able to circle my right leg out of the guard and solidify the pass. Not for long though, as Callan locks me up in a quarter guard and begins turtling away, forcing me to reverse the knee cut on the opposite side, but it's too late as he's able to get his guard back, and I have to do it all over again. I start using a Danaher Toriando, but he starts coming up on a rustle up, so I backstep over his hook and try to use the same technique that I just used. Callan isn't going to let me do that again, and he snatches me up in a close guard. Quick shout out to him though, as he understands the people of YouTube don't want to watch the remaining 6 minutes of jiu-jitsu with 2 dudes sitting between each other's legs. He wastes no time wrapping me up in an X guard and takes me over, punishing me for standing up straight. Now let's see if my guard is any better than my passing, which would be pretty humiliating considering it's all I've worked on for a year and it still looks like this. Callan dives onto a loose knee cut, but I manage to keep control of his leg and he'll lock onto a guillotine. I hit a back step and reverse the position. I come up and press his legs down. Then I leap over for a knee cut but get stopped by a knee shield before Callan decides to up the ante and stands up to his feet. We enter into the wrestling exchange and I can't help but notice a similar picture from early in my childhood as I take a terrible shot and Callan treats me like a kid pushing against my head as I stumble towards him. He returns with an arm drag single leg, nearly securing the takedown. Of course, I was not going to let that slide and I had to hit him back with it. He counters with a guillotine, but I'll hip switch out of his hooks and come back on top to base. After that, I'll steal a move he used earlier in the round and loose knee cut into a darce. Seemingly unthreatened, Callan rotates around to free himself from the choke, but allows me to stabilize myself with knee mount. At a tournament, there would normally be a Brazilian crowd shouting ineligible Portuguese, which would increase my mount pressure by 10%. Unfortunately, because of the lack of Bohadas and Isus in the crowd, Callan is able to hit a reversal and stands back up to top position. While I was over here treating this round like the World Championships and daydreaming about how I nearly failed math class, Callan was preparing himself and conserving his energy until he found the right opportunity. He picks up the pace and pressure until he backsteps around my guard and falls back onto a leg. It doesn't take long for my smooth brain to rotate the wrong way and I fall victim to the first submission of the round via knee bar. I'll restart the round with what seemed like a pretty decent knee cut. However, I unfortunately missed the underhook and Callan is able to condense himself into a ball and start kicking and framing me away. Amidst the chaos, I make a grave miscalculation, which, what were you guys expecting? And Callan brings himself into single leg X. Now, the ankle lock from here is definitely one of my weak points. However, the guard itself is honestly one of the ones I'm better at defending, and I do that by taking the foot off my hip and circling my legs out of his far hook. With the close call, I subtract my leg from the equation, get it, and get back into a position of culture. I try to smash pass from headquarters, but Callan uses the diamond guard method of defending and perfectly blocks my pass by connecting his knee and elbows. For whatever reason, I believe I may have just lost my balance here and fell in style, but I ended up sitting the guard before we quickly returned back to our feet. One thing I always keep in mind is I want to stare into Callan's soul, but I don't want him to stare back into mine, meaning I should be looking into his neck and using my big ass forehead to block him from looking back at me. Well, I ended up doing a pretty shit job at that and nearly get taken over with an Uchimata. We continue to exchange children's judo throws until I send it over with a flying triangle. I just miss it, but Callan's able to keep himself safe, and then in the transition, he starts pouring on passing pressure but falls back onto a knee bar. As he goes to set it in, I'm just able to free my knee and I return at the top. Once again today, I'm down a submission and I need a Hail Mary attack. If you were here in the last video, then you know exactly what comes next. And with the conclusion of this round, we are left with one final opponent at Traphouse. If you guys enjoyed the roll so far, do me a favor and click subscribe so I can continue to make videos like these. Also remember to check the description and enter the giveaway. And with that being said, in the next video, we'll take on the final opponent before Seattle, so stay tuned.
What the f